Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Seriously in Business podcast. I have a lovely guest for you today. Her name is Rashida and she is a copywriter who creates strategic copy for her clients and does incredible work. We're doing websites and all of these sorts of things. Incredible, right? But what I want to talk with her about is around customer avatars. And I don't know about you, but that phrase kind of just makes me like, oh, business words that I don't like to do, and it sounds like hard work. But Rashida is really great at sharing the benefits of actually sitting down and doing this for our business in the way that it's going to attract us more clients, attract better clients, and help us to be so much more crystal clear when we're creating graphics for our business, when we're creating copy for our business, when we're creating anything for our business, or we're hiring someone to do those things for us. It means that what we create is actually strategic and actually going to work for our business rather than just a random paragraph or a random design that just isn't really hitting the mark with anyone. And it's just a phrase that she liked to use that was spray and pray. So just spraying out random stuff and just hoping that someone buys it. So let's jump into this episode with Rashida now. Welcome, Rashida, to the podcast. Thank you very, very much for being here. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, Jacqui. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you. I'm excited for this conversation because I think it's something that can be really helpful for pretty much every single business. So it's good to kind of be able to dig into this with you. But before we get started, I always love to get to know my guest a little bit, because like on Instagram, on the internet, all we ever see is like the outside of people's life. But I just love to know, like, what is an everyday average life, everyday average day in the life of your business kind of look like? Like, how does it start? How does it middle? And how does it end?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So every day looks very different in my
Okay.
business. The only constant is the school pickup and drop off that I got to do every morning and get two kids up. So that's the one constant that's there. But otherwise, my day to day work varies because my clients are all different and the work that I do for them is all different. So I could be working on anything from a website copy project to keyword research. For a client, and then trying to fit in all the marketing and all the admin and all the other stuff I need to do as a business owner.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually, and I actually really love the diversity of what I do. And I think variety is the spice of life, and it keeps somebody like me quite engaged and interested because I do tend to get bored a little easily. So I love and thrive on the variety.
I feel like there's so many business owners is one of the reasons we love also running a business is that there's like not only the variety in the actual work we do, but also the variety in, like, yeah, as you say, like the marketing and the client interactions and all these other things as well, which I love as well. And so you've got two kids. And so like, I'm assuming your mornings is getting them ready and then going. And so do you mainly just work inside those school hours?
No, I tend to work anytime and every time I need to work. I was thinking about trying to work in school hours, but I think it's just not enough time. So it then tends to spill over for after school as well. So last few nights I've been at my computer till 9 p.m. at night, really.
Yeah.
Trying to catch up on stuff because I'd fallen a bit behind. But really don't mind it, surprisingly. And I instead of feeling exhausted when I get up from my computer, I actually feel a really nice buzz. And I think you get that when you're working on something that's your own, that you're building for yourself. So I get that buzz every day and I feel really lucky
That's
to
pretty
have
cool.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that sometimes too. I have to, because I've got a toddler, I'm like, there's no consistency to when I work really at all. But a lot of the time I'm working in the evenings or on Saturdays, and my coach is like, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, yeah, because it just means like I like what I do. And I do allow myself the time in other spaces of life. Like if a friend says, do you want to catch up for a coffee? I'll say, yeah, I'll do that. And then I'll work in the evening to make up for that time because there's that flexibility available. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. And so right now you run your own business and you work from home, I'm assuming. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how did you get to where you are now? Like what's been your journey in business and in your career?
Okay, so I started working from home before it became the norm to work from home.
Yep.
So I started my business about 12 years ago now, and that's how old my son is, my firstborn. And I started. So I used to work in. I have marketing qualifications, and I did work in marketing roles before he came along. And like a lot of other parents, um, I got pushed out of the workforce because of a lack of flexibility from the employer. And to be honest, I wasn't even enjoying what I was doing. I think I hated the idea of clocking in and out and, having to deal with people in the workplace and politics. And I'm just like, well, at that point, I didn't know there was a different path. And then, um, because I was on maternity leave from my job, I had the space and the time to think about, okay, what can I do in this time to keep myself busy? Because, thought I was going to have plenty of time with a newborn on my hands. And I have to credit my husband for this. And he said, well, you always wanted to write. He said, why don't you start now and see where it goes? And initially, my big dream was to just see my name in a magazine, because that had been my dream since I was 8 years old. So I did a few freelance writing courses, and I pretty much started pitching after 6 weeks. And to my surprise, my ideas were getting accepted. So I ended up writing a lot for Sydney Morning Herald's parenting section. I wrote a few articles for news and quite a few for SBS at that time,
Wow.
parenting, and then eventually ended up being published in Sunday Life, which was my bucket list publication. And then I realized while I was doing this that, look, this is making me really happy and I'm excited and I don't mind pulling in the late nights to get stuff done. And then I took a leap of faith, resigned from my job after 2 years of being on mat leave, and just decided never to go back. And then eventually, because I was blogging and sharing my stuff online, I started getting approached by people for copywriting. Now, at that point, I did not know that what I was doing was called copywriting. I was just like, somebody asked me, can you write 50 blogs for us? And I said, cool, yeah, I've been blogging. How hard can it be? And that's pretty much my mantra all these years, is I figure it out as I go along.
Yeah.
But I'd say that the one advantage I've got is, I've got the marketing experience and background, and content writing and copywriting does come naturally to me. Although having said that, I did have a lot to learn and I'm still learning as I go along. So here I am 12 years later, I'm a full-time copywriter.
I love that. The career you didn't even know existed. You just
Exactly.
accidentally fell into because you pursued your love of writing.
Mm.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing your story. It's so cool. I love hearing people's stories and how it's never linear. It's never linear. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So your expertise is obviously now in copywriting. And so I know you love to talk about this idea of creating a custom avatar. And I think it's it's a really powerful tool for businesses to take advantage of. But I think even for me, it's felt like a thing over there that I kind of know about, but I don't really want to be bothered doing. And when I have, it's like, exactly how specific should I be getting and what really is it and all these different things. So I want to kind of dive into a few of those questions today with you. And so my first question for you, just for anyone who's feeling confused, is what is a custom avatar for our businesses?
Okay. So every business will have a dream customer, okay, for their product or their service. Now, this dream customer is the one who gets attracted by your messaging, feels that you fulfill all their needs, feels like they feel that you really understand them. And in short, when you put it down on paper, that's your customer avatar. Now, this person could be a fictional, a fictional, persona on paper that that you need to create as a new business, or it could, if you're already an established business, then it could be that customer who keeps coming back to you over and over again. So who keeps buying from you, who keeps hiring you for your services over and over again. And basically, overall, they're a dream to work with. They appreciate what you do for them. They appreciate the value you bring to their life and their business. And on top of that, the best thing of all is that they rave about you to their friends, family, and networks. And I find that a lot of businesses that come to me and have come to me over the years have very little idea of who they're selling to. And that simply makes me think that they didn't sit down at the beginning and think about who they want to buy their product or service. Because let's face it, your product or service will not be suitable for everyone.
Yeah.
There is always going to be a group that you seem to attract more and more. So, for example, say if you're selling, baby gifts, okay, your audience will predominantly be mums buying for other moms, or there might be the friends of the moms or the parents buying for them. So your audience is never going to be a tradie, for example, who will come to your website and think, oh, I need to buy, they could be a tradie in what they do, but then there's a very specific type of client that will buy your product. And that's basically in a nutshell what a customer profile or a customer avatar is.
Yeah, that's a really great summary of that. And it's exactly like what I teach in the design side of things, is if you don't know who you're talking to and creating for and who your business is serving through like a customer avatar, then how do you know what kind of graphics to make to target that exact person? And it's the same with writing your content. Like if you're putting a website out there or a social media post, if you don't know who you're talking to, then it's not really, you're trying to, so many people just try to please everyone with their business. They're like, oh, I don't want to put off anyone. I want to attract everyone. Anyone can work with me. And it's like, well, no one's really feeling that called to work with you because you're not really showing them that you're for them. I'm actually feeling like this. I'm a customer at the moment of, there's two people that I'm kind of like thinking about buying their services and products at the moment. And I'm just reading their content over and over again, thinking, am I the right person for them? Am I the right fit? And I'm like looking at their language and looking at the kind of person they're trying to target. I'm just trying to work out, like, are they actually going to be able to help me? Do they really know me? Like this stage of my life and business, can they help me? And so I think, and I'm doing that quite intentionally, but I think for most of us, even if we're not thinking intentionally as customers, we are looking for businesses that get where we are and are going to solve that problem or solution, whether it's a baby gift or whether it's like a coaching program or anything in between. Yeah. And so when a business can get, when I guess, especially as we as business owners can get so clear in who that customer avatar is, we can then create content for that. We can create graphics for that. We can create everything that's targeting that person. And I guess you would probably agree with this. It's not to say that you're never going to get an outlier, like you're never going to get a tradie buy from you, but it does mean that you're going to be really targeting the right people over and over again, which are going to be your loyal, consistent, over and over again kind of customers.
Yeah, definitely. I think it also, a lot of things tend to fall into place when you're speaking to a specific person.
Yeah.
It's just, everything just flows, and the words come more easily. It's easier to choose the graphics and the design. So for example, I know that my predominant audience is women in business, so I'm not likely to choose I think very blokey style graphics, or shows more men in my graphics. I'd be gravitating more towards the stuff that women generally tend to like. So I think a lot of things that you have to do and think about day to day in your business becomes so much easier when you have a specific audience in mind. And this can just even be one person. And I know that there is an advertising saying that says that if you try and speak to everyone, you end up speaking to no one.
Yeah. And you're so right. I remember I've used that saying for years as well. It's such a good one. And that idea of it just flows so much easier as a business owner when we have that clarity. It's just like, I see it in my clients when I get them to really decide who they're talking to, and all of a sudden all their graphics are just flowing. Or like when I've thought about for my own business, when I'm writing a sales page or something, when I'm actually really sure of who I'm talking to, I'm like, oh, then this is the reason they need to work with me. And then this is what they're feeling. And this is why they don't want to work with me. So I need to target this kind of idea. Yeah. But when you know that specifically, you can just be so sure, and you can kind of get on a roll rather than feeling like, oh, but then this person might not like this. And then this person over here will probably think that differently about this. But when you have that clarity, it makes it a lot easier. What are some other benefits around having knowing your customer avatar?
I think a lot of the time, whenever we are thinking of buying something, and like what you mentioned earlier, that, you find yourself going back again and again to that website, looking at that information, that means somewhere emotionally, they have not sold you on that idea. And let's face it, everyone buys based on emotions. Yeah. So the more you can reflect the ideal customers' likes, dislikes, needs, fears, goals, and dreams in whatever it is that you're putting out there, well, the less and fewer objections they're going to have. They're going to literally tell you, show me them, where do I sign up?
Where can I buy? Yeah.
Where can I buy? Because you have overcome all those mental blocks that they've got regarding buying. And the higher the investment that you're asking them to make, the more, and I think the more targeted your language, your design, the journey, everything needs to be. So I think one of the biggest benefits to having a customer avatar is actually being able to overcome any objections that they might have. A second benefit is that you as a business, and you and I are both small businesses, the money we have that we allocate to promotion and all that is very precious to us because we don't have huge marketing budgets.
Yeah.
So you want maximum return on investment for any dollar you're putting towards promoting your product or service. So I think when you know who your customer is, part of that is where they hang out, then you know where to put that dollar in and you will get maximum benefit out of it.
Yeah.
And I think another benefit to having a customer a customer profile is basically it just everything becomes easier. Like I mentioned, it becomes easier to reach them. It becomes easier to talk to them. It just saves you having to waste time and money trying to do a spray and pray approach. And I think spray and pray in business or in any other thing really doesn't work. The more focused and the more narrow you can get in your messaging, in your design, in your approach, I think the better the results for your business for sure.
Yeah, that's so true. I haven't heard the phrase spray and pray. I love that so much. Yeah. And I love what you said too. Like if you know your customer avatar, then you're likely to know where they're hanging out. So you can do the right sort of advertising to target that. Like there's no point, like a horrible example would be, there'd be no point doing newspaper ads for a particular sort of audience because like if you're trying to target me and did newspaper ads, I would never see your ads because I don't look at the newspaper. And so knowing a customer avatar, you can help you just know those things so much better. Hey. Okay. And so you've sold me on creating a customer avatar. How the heck do I go about doing this? It feels like such an overwhelming process to begin to start doing.
Okay, so I do this a lot for my clients because for any of the website copywriting projects or any content writing projects I have to have a deep understanding of the audience they're speaking to. So I use 3 methods to create my customer profile. And I did this exercise recently for my own business as well. And it was quite eye-opening as well, but now I'm very clear on who it is that I'm targeting. So the first thing I do is I ask to speak to the customer of the customer. And I think that's where you can get the most gold out of knowing who it is that the client is trying to speak to and what it is that the client does best. So my experience has always been that if I'm speaking to the business owner and I'm speaking to the client, both will talk about the business in very different terms.
Yeah.
And most often, a lot of the things that the client does, which is a by the way thing, they're like, oh no, I just do this and I just do this for my client. Actually, it is really, really valuable for the customer. They're like, oh my God, they always deliver on time, so I can meet my project deadlines. They are so reliable. They've never let me down. And for the client, for my client, they're like, oh no, that's just something I do. I commit to a deadline and I do it. But the amount of value it's creating for their client is only, you'd only find that out if you spoke to the client themselves. So I think the best way to get started with this is to choose your best customer and to speak to them about exactly what their problems are, what were they facing before they found you, how did they find you, how has your product or service made their life better, and focus on trying to find the transformation aspect of it. So the reason advertising works, right? Any form of really good advertising is because it promises to change your life. And your product and service is currently changing your client's life, and you just need to find out how and then reflect that in your messaging. So definitely client interviews are a very good place to start. And I also always recommend speaking to an ex-customer because you can get some really good insights on why they stopped buying from you. And assuming that, I know it's really scary, right? But I'm sure that there might be a customer that may have stopped buying from you, but then you are on good terms with them. So you think like, hey, it's been a while. Maybe they were a friend who stopped buying from you. I don't know. But a lot of businesses do have those ex-customers. And I mean, you could talk to them. It's not a must that you have to, but generally you can find some really good insights on what are some of the things that you may have inadvertently done that stop them coming back to you. Because I mean, look, it takes more work to try and find a new customer and convert them than it takes to sort of retain an existing customer.
Yeah.
So definitely those two people I'd recommend speaking to. A second way I generally get into the minds of my client's client is by looking up reviews and doing what's called mining. So trolling through, forums, scrolling through competitor testimonials and seeing what exactly are the clients struggling with, that perhaps we can mention in our copy. And the third way I do this is actually I recently started playing around with ChatGPT. And while it won't spit out very valuable things, it does act as a good starting point. So I use the paid version, but the free one works quite well as well. And all you have to do is make sure you're putting in the right prompts, and then it will start creating a little picture for you. But I would corroborate that picture with an actual human customer. So those are the three ways that I do my research. And I think research for me is almost 60% of what the work I do, because that's what informs good content and good copy.
Yeah, cool. There was so much in there. I want to make sure that I list down somehow the questions that you shared there that we should ask a client that we've had in the past, because I think getting inside their mind. I remember one time, this was a really good job that I did this actually. I think about a year ago, I just put out to my past clients and my Instagram community, and I said, I would love to just chat with you for 15 minutes. Here's a link to book a call. And I think I got about 10 people booking a call, and we just chatted, and I just had a list of questions that I asked them, and it was really insightful. And not only did it help me form a customer avatar, it also helped me, like, I named a product after some words that some of my clients said, because it was just so valuable because they were the ones, like, I feel like I know my business pretty well, but how it actually appears to other people, that's the truth of what your business actually is, because that's how it's getting worked out in reality. So talking to people can be really, really helpful with that. Okay, so once we've spoken to people, or we've done that research, we've done the mining, we've done some ChatGPT research, what do we then do with that? Like, is it just something we have in the back of our minds as a business owner? Is it something that we kind of write down somewhere? What are the things that we kind of, what do we kind of do with that?
Okay, so I think it definitely needs to be formally documented. And if you have a team with you who's, or even if it's a VA, for example, who might be writing your social media captions and things like that, I think it's important to have that document sort of there as a point of reference, so that every business activity that's then done from that point onwards can be tied back to that customer avatar document and said, hey, look, our customer hangs out on Instagram. Should we be continuing to put focus on Facebook? Sorry, not Facebook, but should we continue, even think about starting up on LinkedIn, because Facebook and Insta is the one person, so one entity. So, so I think those really really minute decisions, I think will be really good for the customer avatar document to have, to act as a point of reference. So don't have it in your head. Definitely, once you compile all of this information, have it in a document which is, open to everyone to refer, so that you know as well, when you're developing or thinking of developing a new product or service, will this appeal to the customer that we are trying to target? So always have the customer avatar document as a base. Excuse me, as a base point, and then work off any marketing or promotion activity based on that. And look, your business might have 2 or 3 customer avatars, and the maximum I'd recommend is to have 3. I think any more than that, then it starts getting really confusing about who you're speaking to. And part of that as well, and this is something new that's come up recently in my world, which is copywriting, is that generally in marketing 101, and I know when I've done this at uni, your typical customer avatar is Susan, for example. Susan lives on the North Shore. Susan has 2 kids. One of them is in prep, one of them is in high school, that sort of thing. But now, with the environment that we are in, and with Australia becoming a really multicultural community, you have to start thinking about the multicultural demographic that you're targeting, and have a customer avatar that speaks to that, that person who might be from an ethnic background. And why this is important is because people from ethnic backgrounds think and behave quite differently, I think, to this traditional customer avatar. So this could affect nuances around language, for example. And a really good example I like giving is about skincare, right? So generally, skincare and makeup is targeted to Caucasian skin tones, right? And the way they speak about that in the language is, it will help brighten your skin, or it will help reduce the the sunspots or whatever. Now that kind of language can be very triggering to a multicultural background, like somebody from a customer from a multicultural background, because a lot of us who have got darker skin tend to have this at the back of the mind that that lighter skin is something that's considered a bit superior kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you're in the skincare industry, for example, start looking at developing a multicultural customer avatar, and also looking at how your language is addressing some of the things that could be triggers for them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Because I guess there's so many different areas to consider, and there's so many different incredible people that we could be working with, and to make sure we're being really, I guess, inclusive almost in a language that we're using, so that it can be something that's not going to trigger anyone else or make that a harder decision for them, because obviously you want to call them into work with you as well, rather than putting them off.
And really interesting aspect in which this is coming up is coaches. So traditionally with the coaching business is that you tend to speak to like your predominant group might be Caucasian women, but actually now there's a lot of women from multicultural backgrounds who want to work with a multicultural coach, somebody who's got an ethnic background, because they feel that understands, they understand the audience a lot better. However, even if you are a Caucasian coach and you want to start working with women from different backgrounds, it's important to consider how you would address that in your content. And for that, you would need a customer avatar who belongs to an ethnic background.
Amazing. And would you recommend, when you create that custom avatar of talking to someone from a multicultural background, so that you can really get to know, because I guess otherwise it's just based on assumptions, which you've probably got no clue about.
Yes, exactly. So definitely in this area, and even for other customers as well, don't be scared to speak to them directly, and just be open and respectful and genuine in what you're trying to come across. And I think that will really help you in your business.
That's a really cool insight. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, cool. So we've built up to 3 customer avatars. And then so your recommendation would be, so that, say I've got a VA working for me, or I'm hiring a copywriter, I then have this as a little document, a little kind of resource that I can send to anyone working with me, even a graphic designer would find it helpful, to then make sure that everything in our business is really making sure that it's targeting that right kind of person, that right kind of avatar, and that which I guess, then in turn comes back to the full circle of what we talked about at the start, of how once you know your customer avatar, then it means that you can be so much more direct with what you're talking about, and also means that they're more likely to get called into working with you, because they're feeling heard and they're feeling understood, and they're feeling like you will actually be able to help them, rather than just, actually, you're only good for that kind of person, so it doesn't include me. Which we want people who, I guess there's 2 sides of the coin here, in terms of we want people that won't work well with us to feel like maybe we're not going to be the best fit for them. Like I don't specifically say like I don't work with males. However, when a male comes to my website or sees my copy or sees my Instagram, they're probably like, is she the right person for me? Just because of the way that I phrase everything and the way that I do my graphics. And it's not to say that if a guy wanted to work with me that I wouldn't. Hi to all the male listeners. You're so welcome here. But it just means that I do work better with females, because I like that design style better. And so, as from a business perspective, I guess we can not only call in the right people, we can also deter the people that we may not work as well with.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of how your customer avatar will really help you identify who you want to work with and who you may not want to work with. And I think with looking at it that way, there's no big loss, I think, if you repel a certain group or something, because they're just not the right fit for you. And I think rather than having all sorts of different people come in and try and decide, whether you're the right provider for them, and then in all of that, book calls with you, go through it with you meet you 2-3 times, and then at the 3rd time they're like, oh, you know what, I'm not convinced. And I think that's quite a waste of time for a small business owner. So it's always, I think, it's always better to very clearly state and show through your website and your messaging and all that who exactly you work with, and your testimonials will do a great job of that, because people will be, they look at them and they say, oh, okay, so she's worked with a coach, she's worked with a naturopath, she's worked with a dietitian, I'm a dietitian, I'll contact her and see how she can help me.
Yeah, that's so true. It's kind of like, pre-qualifying your leads so that people can just realize that we're not the right fit. And that's not to mean that someone else isn't the right fit. It's not to say that you don't like them as a person. It's just to say, hey, I work best with naturopaths. So it'd be great if you could come along and work with me.
Yeah. And a clear example of that is, Apple and Samsung users, right? A Samsung user will not cross over to an Apple product, and an Apple product will not cross over to the Samsung area. But then both brands are wildly successful because they attract their tribe. And I think that's what you need to do as a small business owner to make your business sustainable, is to attract the people who will really appreciate, understand, and value what you're giving them.
Because I think that's a big key there, because I think if we do the thing of I'm just going to work with anyone and everyone, we're going to probably get dissatisfied clients and customers because we're not meeting their needs perfectly because they're the wrong kind of fit for us. In the past, when I have worked with male customers or clients, I've done my best for them, but because their design style is quite different to what I'm naturally drawn to and can do, they're usually not 100% happy with what the outcome is.
Yeah.
And then that leads to them not being happy with what they're paid for. It leads to me feeling disappointed that I haven't done the best job that I can do. And this is not the best experience. Whereas if we get really sure on the kind of people, like at the start, you said, like the people you're talking to for your customer avatar interviews are those dream clients, the ones that you just get along with so well, the ones that just adore your services and products. And they're able to give you the insight so you can attract more of them rather than getting really lost in like, oh, just anyone and everyone will be fine. I just need money, which that comes from such a scarcity mindset of like, there's only like, I think when we start to do a customer avatar, particularly at the start of our business, when we're just kind of feeling the waters, which is okay to kind of test the waters a little bit and see who you work well with and see who you don't work well with. But once you start to get an idea, to really not be afraid to hone in on that, because otherwise I think we start to think, oh, there's not going to be enough people to work with. Like if I just really hone in on female dietitians who live in Sydney, then there's not going to be enough there. But there are plenty, and that means you'll probably get nearly all of them because you're just being so specific around that person that they're like, oh, I must work with this person. She is the person to work with if I'm this kind of person, rather than feeling like, oh, if I just niche down, then I'm going to not have enough clients. But I think that's rarely the case unless you're being like that niche example I gave was very specific. Yeah. But I think unless you're getting that specific, you're not going to, there's so many people in the world.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think what the customer avatar does is it really gives you a clear picture of who you need to talk to. So if your audience, is female between the ages of 35 and 44, you don't really need to drill down into whether they are a mother or a grandmother or an auntie or that sort of thing. I think what the value of a customer avatar is really the motivations, the fears, the dreams, and the goals that your audience is trying to achieve, and how then your product or service will help them get there. It's all about transformation. So try and find out what really motivates your target market. And once you do, find out how then your product will help to get them to that place of transformation.
Yeah. Hit the nail on the head. I think we get so bogged down with all like the external details. And while they are important and nice to think about, especially for some businesses, the main thing you want to get in on is those dreams and those visions, because that's where especially for content copywriting, like for a sales page, for example, if I'm not clear on those things, my sales page is going to be like, these are the 50 benefits of my program. And people are like, well, I don't really care about most of those. But if I know my target audience, I can just say the ones that they really care about and are going to help them to think, actually, no, I need this. That's so powerful and so true.
Yeah.
All right. Any final mistakes that people make when they are doing their customer avatars that we might be able to just rectify before people get started on them?
Yeah. So I think I've found from experience there's two mistakes. One is, well, actually, there's a few mistakes, not even one or two, now that I think about it. So the first mistake is, I think, being scared to talk to your dream client.
Yeah.
And look, you may not have that client just yet, but if you have an idea of who that client looks like and what they do, you can pretty much find them to talk to, even if they haven't yet bought your product or service, right?
Yeah.
So this is somebody you could be meeting at a networking event, or you could have met at a trade show, for example. So don't be afraid to reach out. At the most, they'll say no, and you just move on to the next person on your list and ask them if they have 15 minutes to speak with you. Second mistake I think people make is not having a formally formally documented customer avatar for their
Sure.
business. So they're so excited by the thought of being in business that they sort of forget marketing 101, exactly who they'll be selling to. So definitely have a formally documented one to three customer avatars. Even if at the beginning of your business and you don't know too much about them, just get the basic stuff down
Mm,
and think about what their possible motivations, their fears, and desires could be.
yeah.
And the I think that's possibly all
Those are
the
the two main
mistakes
ones.
I've seen. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, sorry. Yes, the last one is launching straight into business and deciding you'll spend money on social media ads or blogging without having a clear idea of where your audience is or what they'll appreciate. I think those are
Yeah.
those all four of those points will be rectified when you have a customer avatar profile.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. I love those points. Thank you for sharing that. So much to think about. And yes, I think, yeah, for every single business, if we get this clarity, then it just helps everything to flow so much better and helps draw in more people into our business. So it's a win-win once we sit down and do the slightly scary work of talking to real
Yeah.
life humans and making actual notes.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I think the scary part is having to ask somebody if they'll speak with you. And I think if you're already at that point where you have a few happy customers, hit them up as soon as they tell you they're happy. So as soon
Yeah.
as you get that email saying, "Hey, I really love what you did. Hey, would you be able to talk to me for 15 minutes?"
Yeah.
And then I'm sure that they'll say yes.
Yeah.
That they won't be able to turn down your request. But look, the only thing you can do is ask, and the benefit of asking will be huge for your business.
Yeah. Yeah. A no is just a no, and a yes could change everything. So
Yes.
yeah, that's so
Yeah.
good. Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. If we want to learn more from you or work with you, how can we keep in touch?
Okay, so you'll find me on LinkedIn and Instagram under Rashida Tayabali Writer. My website is www.rashidatayabali.com.au, and I also have a customer avatar worksheet or a guide or a workbook, whatever it is, but it will
One of
help you,
those.
whatever it is. It will help you create a good picture of who your target audience is or should be. And it's available for purchase, I think, in the show notes. The
Yeah.
link will be in the show notes.
Yeah, the link will be in the show notes. And I think that'll be a very useful resource for those people that are really wanting to implement what we've kind of talked about today. So thank you for providing that. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for all of your lovely insight and thoughts. It has been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. I've really enjoyed it too. And it always amazes me just how much I know when I sit down to talk about it.
I agree. It's like, oh, I just know a tiny bit about custom avatars. And I'm like,
Yes.
actually, no, I could talk about that for a good half an hour.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So I really hope that whatever I've said is useful to your audience and provides them with a good starting point, and hopefully they see much success with it because of
I
it.
believe so. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
All right. Thanks, Jacqui.
So thank you for joining us for that episode. I hope you found it so helpful and a little bit inspiring to help you be like, all right, this week I'm going to book in an interview with a past client, with a dream client, and we're just going to sit down, ask a few questions, and get this stuff going for our business, because I just feel like it could be such a useful tool to help you feel confident and calm when you're putting stuff out there, to know like, this is who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to them. I'm not talking to them. I don't need to please or appeal to everyone. I just need to focus on my person and do a really good job of that. So thank you for joining us. And don't forget to check out Rashida's like little resources for if you're really wanting to get deeper into this stuff. So thank you for joining. If you liked this episode, make sure you either hit subscribe if you're on the YouTube, or if the YouTube, I feel like my mum, if you're on YouTube, sorry mum, or hit like a follow or subscribe or whatever it is on your particular podcast platform of choice. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week for another episode. Bye.